Okay, so yep, I think this time I'll add a new rule to docstring, namely a option to allow to make the absence of a returns docstring acceptable. This option comes from a user demand, and I think is reasonable. Sometimes your function description is very repetitive with what you put in the return. If sometimes in the description all you want to say is this function returns something, and that in that case is definitely repetitive. So as a tool that enforces policy, I think you're supposed to give out all the options and let people decide what the policy is supposed to be. So, yep. So that's what I'm working on. Cool. Let's get started. All right. So So here are all the integration tests. I think a reasonable way to start is to look at what we do for throws when we ignore them. So let's look. Tests, docstring tests problem. Well, we want to look at the fixture. And there's throw, ignore throw. Okay. So ignore throw fixture, we have a bunch of tests. The first one basically is here. This is the most important line where even though the function does throw, we check that the linter doesn't complain. So when we run this test, we configure the linter such that it ignores throws. And for the second test, we are testing the fact that even though throw is ignored, if documentation for throws is present, its format still gets linted. So that's why that's what this is for. Cool. So I think pretty easy way to start is to just replicate this test for returns. Is there an easy way to do that? What if I say w tests fixtures? Okay. Ignore returns dot swift. Cool. So we go to ignore any mentions of throws. Well, don't care about this anymore. Don't really care about these. Actually, to simplify, I can even do this. Right? Cool. Okay. So similarly for this one, we're going to document returns. Okay, I think this will work. Okay, so this would be ignore returns fixture, and of course make the compiler happy. Okay, so here's a simple test for essentially what we need to implement today. And that's just the fixture for the test. So let's write the actual test. Okay, so copy this. It's not going to be that simple, but this is kind of the leaf level of what needs to happen. Returns, ignore returns. Yeah, so this is where things get interesting. So instead of saying ignore throws, we need to say ignore returns. However, we don't have that option right now for run test. So let's go here, ignore returns. Needs to be, yeah, default value is false. Okay, so in order for this to compile, we need to update, well, configuration. Configuration now, in addition to that, we need returns. Cool. Okay, so this takes care of this from this library's point of view, which is the configuration now officially contains information about it. But I don't think if we try to compile, things will work, because there must be code that instantiate this object, and those call size now needs to be updated. But yeah, overall, this should be pretty simple to implement, because one, we'll have a very similar thing already for throws, and two, it's disabling things that we do as opposed to doing new things. So at the end of the day, it's just a line for that boolean we added somewhere. Again, this is a search and a replace kind of job. Okay, so that's one. And of course, ignore returns does not exist. So, and jump to definitions are broken. There we go. Okay. So that compiled. What's the good way to do this? Well, let's make sure if when I run the test, it will fail. Oh, it's going to compile everything again. Aha, I need to update the test now. Superfluous exclusion test. Nope, not there. Here. Yep, 69 tests, 1 failure. Nice. Okay. All right, I guess this is not a bad time to make a branch. Okay. We already made a bunch of things. Whatever. Okay. So let's make the test pass. And then we need to update the command line interface such that this option is exposed. Okay, let's make the test passed. We go to critic, validating, and when we look for returns problems, we pass in ignore returns. Ignore returns. Okay. And here we replicate this. Oh. Okay. Let me see if I can fix this. This better? Maybe. Cool. All right, so now we need to update this function to include that value. Ignore returns. Must be bool. Okay, so there's now suddenly a bunch of complexities, right? But we do kind of want to follow the same pattern as throws. So I'm just gonna literally copy this code there as a reference. Okay, so the first thing we do is check whether the signature actually throws, actually returns in this case, which we're doing already. So if it does not throw, so here are existing logic. If you have a return type, and if you don't have a return type, but somehow there's a returns keyword, we're going to tell you that's redundant. Otherwise, if you don't have a return type, that's fine. Okay, so that's pretty good. Now the next thing is, if you do have a return documentation, and we know you do return, would that be a problem? Well, previously it would, but now we have to also check ignore returns is false, right? So this is saying you have the return type, you don't have a documentation for your return type. And you didn't ignore return. You didn't say ignore return is okay. Right? Right. If the ignore return is true, then this whole thing will be false. Wait. Oh, yeah. That seems right. So in the case that you have a return doc, but ignore return is true, right? Ignore return is true. You have a doc. You have a doc, therefore this condition is true. This condition is true. You ignore returns. Yeah, actually I like this logic better, right? It should be something like this. If you ignore returns, then no problem. Otherwise, you will have one problem, right? It should be something like that. Now, the next question, if you ignore return, but you have a return doc and return type, well, we keep searching for the white space for error. So let's see. We know we have a return type at this point, and we know we have a return doc at this point. So I don't need this anymore, right? Yeah, I like this because this is kind of the only time that this variable is referenced, which is really good. Oops. I think that's the right way to go. Actually, let's run the tests. Okay, cool. In check dot left what? At some point, I'm going to stop relying on compiler to tell me what to do next. I'm just feeling pretty lazy right now. Okay, tell me what to do. Where is this from? Aha. Hey, the test passed. Cool. What else? Yeah, now we expose this to the command line option. So we go here, here. Ignore throws. Just copy this and say ignore returns. Whether it's okay to not have the argument for what function method returns. Okay. So the keyword here would be ignore returns. It's going to return that. Okay, this is already fixed. Is that it? Let's try it. So Swift run DrString check -h. So if the thing was correctly added, we should see a line, a documentation, and then we'll do some manual testing, even though our test kind of already covers it. And then that's it. We can close the ticket. I'll show you guys the ticket again. Okay, so this is what we're working towards. I think I have a high confidence this will be over very quickly, so let's pick something else. This is interesting. Yeah, this is interesting. Oops. Okay. What do we have here? Ignore returns. Cool. And let's see. We want to do test and DrString tests fixture ignore returns.swift. All right, so we found a bunch of problems. So this guy is missing returns. Return is misspelled as returns. What? Ah, that's right. That's okay. That's okay. Okay, so now let's add that option. First of all, let's do first letter lowercase. So that should get rid of this confusing one. Okay. Yep, white space is getting picked up. Ignore returns. Oh no, what happened? General error encountered. General error encountered. What does that mean? Ignore returns. Ignore returns. That's what I typed, right? Ignore returns. Okay. Oops. All right, so why would this error out? Type ignore returns. Oh, ignore returns equals true. That's what we want. There we go. Okay, so now with this being true, the first function doesn't have error anymore. So if it's false, yep, we find it. If it's true, we find that okay. Yo, this is easy. Let's commit it and to. Actually, this is not complete. We need to also add documentation for it. What is it? Documentation. Configuration.md. Let's find ignore throws. Right, that should be easy. Essentially, it's the same keyword. Whether to make documentation for the throws for returns mandatory. When this is true, missing documentation for returns won't be considered problematic. This is harder to read. How about when this is false? Missing documentation will be considered problematic. Default value is the same. Required no. Cool. And we'll change the word bh here as well. Boop. Returns when this is false. For will be considered. Will be is weird. Is considered. Cool. We should say something about note if DocString for throws exists, it's for a function that throws, it's white space error. Interesting. Will be considered regardless of this option. Cool. What else? Changelog. This is master. New. An option to make presence of returns docstring optional non-mandatory. The option ignore throws. Oops. That's weird. Ignore throws non-mandatory. Cool. So, are we ready? I think we're ready. Ignore returns option. CLI option, config option, linter behavior tests. Config documentation. Okay. All right, let's make a pull request. Okay, so that'll kick off a bunch of checks. I don't expect any of them to fail, so that's that. All right, let's look at what else we can work on next. So that took about 20 minutes, give or take, which is actually longer than I thought it would. I think if I'm not talking through it, I'll do it faster, but whatever. Oh yeah, we can do, what was that? 81. Closes 81. Yay. Okay. All right, let's pick from the next milestone. There's obviously the big ticket, but I'm not sure if today is the day to work on them. I can work on documentation. I can work on another rule, for example, like maybe you pick something that's a little different. Mixed parameter style sounds interesting. So this is when you have grouped parameters. You say dash parameters colon, and then you say dash name of the parameter colon description of the parameter dash name of the second parameter colon description of the parameter versus you don't have a header that says dash parameters colon. You say dash parameter name colon. Oh, I can just show you, but yeah. Okay, let's get. So is that what I want to work on? Sure. Maybe. We can also work on no way to get a list of paths of files that happens. Yeah, I can work on this. Uh-oh, something bad happened. I added a new test. Make generate. Perfect. Yep. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'll work on another one just as part of a ramp up. All right. So let's go back to. Hello? Oh, like this, right? Okay, so this is about mixed parameter documentation style. Sorry, just checking CI real quick. Okay. What can we do about that? So there should be a command line option / configuration option that says, I want this style or I want the other style. Or maybe I don't care, right? Because I can see scenarios where I don't care is the way to go and you still care about everything else. Yeah, yeah, okay. So here we probably want another thing that's like parameter style or something. And then you have grouped, separate, and whatever style. Group, separate, and whatever. Oh, this is tricky because when you actually have just one parameter, you're supposed to, I guess both style is okay in that sense. Okay. So we're gonna add yet more options. Parameter style, and we're gonna add that as here as well. So this is going to be similar to this option. So the default is we don't care about parameter style. You can mix them. Yeah. Oh, by the way, this passed. So let's merge it. Boom. Nice. Okay. So now we can stash everything. Go back to master. So what should I name this? Sometimes when I'm lazy, I just name it after the ticket. No way to get a list. Blah 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 blah. Doesn't catch mixed style. So that's issue number 67. So let's call it number 67. Easy. Okay, so usual suspect failed. Oh, this is the command line argument. Great. So read-only option is set. What? Are you just using Vim on terminal for text editing? Hi, Raffles. I'm just using terminal. Yeah, Vim on terminal for text editing. That's right. I mean, I also use Xcode, but with this project, I don't really need Xcode. Is there anything interesting about what you're saying that you want me to talk about? Wait, what was the error? Aha. So to make it enum to work with the command line interface, we need to make it conform to this special type. Luckily, it doesn't require a lot of thinking from my part because we have an example to go with. This is perfect for me because I'm kind of tired. All right, so parameter style. We take the raw value, which is a string. Perfect. And here we say it's whatever separated, separate and grouped. Separate and grouped. They're all adjectives. Okay. What else? I use echo command line to compile and test everything. Well, I'm not. I'm using Swift Package Manager. So I have a makefile, which kind of saved me some typing. When I want to test, I just run make test, which just does Swift test. So there's more complicated stuff. Like when I build, for example, I need to build it in release mode. So, but it's all just built-in Swift stuff. And when I run them, I have shortcuts in Vim that runs them. So let's say I want to build it. So I usually type make build, for example. And then I have this hotkey that binds to it. So I can just hit the hotkey and I'll build. And when I have an error, let's make an error, right? So let's delete this line. Let's open a different file. Oh, well. Okay. For some reason, I can't save this file, whatever. And then I should encounter a build error. But the good thing is it'll take me exactly to where the error is, because Vim has a thing where you tell it to parse a certain kind of error from an output, and it will, if the output is in this buffer, which is called quick fix, you can jump to that error immediately. So it's kind of a combination of different set of tools that all work together. But I find it pretty works well enough. You haven't seen Swift Package Manager yet? Yeah, it's it's the open source thing. It's catching up. Traditionally, it's not. I wouldn't say it's super useful, especially for, like, let's say iOS development. It's not super useful. But in after this year's WWDC, it actually Xcode has support for it. So now you can legitimately manage your dependencies with it. So it's picking up some steam. Yeah, but for my purpose, this is just a command line tool. So there really is not a lot of reason to use Xcode other than maybe this editor integration is IDE. But I find Vim to be sufficient. So anyways, so when I build, everything builds now, right? Cool. And I believe if I run tests, all tests should pass. Oh, it won't build, which is what I need. I think there's a couple of places where I need to put that option in. And then we'll add some tests. We'll see the test fail. And then we will make the change in the program, make the test pass, and then we'll close the ticket. Do you use items too? And if you do, it would be great to know what plug-in you use for the file directory. The file directory. I assume you mean this, right? This thing on the side. So yes, I'm using items too, but this is not part of it. This is part of Vim. This is a plugin called Nerd Tree. If you notice, it says Nerd Tree here on the bottom. Sorry, it says Nerd Tree here. Yeah, so it's a Vim plugin. Okay, so what did I call it? Parameter style. There must be a couple of instances of this. What do you use to parse the errors and show on the editor? That's also Vim. So Vim have a very nice feature where you give it a bunch of like almost just regular expressions, and then it will just keep running like it, and then like as long as you're, like I mentioned, if you make the output you wanted to see to appear in this very special buffer called quick fix, you can see it says quick fix on the bottom left. Then it will, run through the regular expressions that you associate this type of files, and it will, if it finds regular expression finds a match, then it will parse out like things like the file path, the line number, the column number, and also highlights it here. And then like if you move your cursor there and hit enter, it will open the file at the right location for you. Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, my setup is not very typical for Swift users, I guess, but just because I program in many languages, and although even though my full-time job is writing Swift, but I had this setup, I guess, for other programming languages, and also it's ancient. My setup, I learned Vim probably in like 15, 16 years ago. So yeah. No problem, man. Thanks for watching. All right, where were we? Okay, so the test compiles now. So I need to add new tests. Not sure whether I want to add a separate test case or piggyback on the existing ones. I guess I'll just piggyback because there's a bunch of boiler code that I want to avoid. So if I want to piggyback, I need to expose it. Parameter style. Configuration parameter style. And let's give it default value. Then we'll actually use that parameter. Cool. So everything should just work just fine. I like Vim, but you use it VS Code and Xvim in Xcode. I need to use it on the terminal though. Well, I don't think you need to use it. It's just like whatever you're fastest with. For me, it's just there's very little things that can beat Vim. Yeah, I was really sad when Xvim like stopped working with Xcode. But everybody should use whatever they're most efficient in, because like they're just tools, right? Like if you can whatever you can fly with, just go for that. That's my opinion. Okay, so now that we have control over this, I can write a couple of tests. Let's see. Test separate parameter style. Okay, so that's test number 1. We also want group. And we want to run a negative test where whatever style. Okay, so let's copy a bunch of things. File name is the only thing that matters. Everything else doesn't matter, except empty false. That's probably good to leave up to. And then parameter style. Here we want separate. Here we want there's Xvim too? Oh, good to know. Yeah, another thing is like you had, I think, at least the last I checked, when you use XVim, you have to disable system integrity protection, which is not a problem for me personally, but my work computer is locked down such that I cannot like reboot it into safe mode to disable that. So that's really sad. Yeah. So basically, I just gave up. Like, and also I'm a little bit icky on the idea of disabling that because it's in theory, it protects you, right? But yeah. But I really like VS Code though. VS Code, um, I think it has a very good Vim simulator in it. So yeah. So if you you can be efficient with VS Code. I think that's definitely a better modern alternative to Vim. Yeah. Yeah, because it also supports so many different languages, and as far as I can tell, the community support for all these languages is very good as well. Okay, so the way the test is written here is we use a thing called file check. I will explain. But let me finish this setup. Cool. All right, so these strings, what are they? So these are supposed to match up with a file in this fixer folder. So let's add a file and call it separate parameter style dot swift. Okay, so how does this work? I opened a separate document here, selected fixture. You can notice that in addition to some code and some DocString, it has this / check thing. So that is the test case. So the way this tool works is you feed it a file, it will do things that takes the file buffer as input, and then it expects you to print things into standard out, and it will capture whatever you print and check against the test case you specified. The test case, the best way to do it is you specify with the same file that it reads. So it's kind of magical. The test case and the file that's the input lives together. So it's very visual, very easy to notice. So you can tell like, okay, so given this input, I'd expect my program or my function to print to standard output these strings, right? It doesn't have to be complete string, but this is a partial string. So that's the way this test is supposed to work. So let's write a new test case. Let's do a namespace, right? Do a namespace. Doesn't matter what the name is, but unfortunately this texture gets compiled, so they can't have name conflicts. It's pretty dumb. So for function f, we want a bunch of parameters. So foo bar. Everything else doesn't matter actually. So let's give it a description. And then let's give it. So this is supposed to be separate. So full description. Foo bar. Oops. So in this case is actually correct. So I would say check not. but check not what, right? Oops. Check not. So when it has a problem, what do we want it to look like? The error message. Let's do G, and let's write the other style, which starts with parameters colon, and then instead of having a keyword in front of each name, you don't, and then you give it an indentation. So this is the other style. So what do we want the error message to say? The error message should say something along the lines of, okay, you told me this is wrong. You told me you prefer the separate parameter style. However, you got the grouped style. And the larger context is like, for this path, we found n problems, and then this will be one of the bullet items in the problem list. So what should we say? What's the verbiage here that we want to use, right? So we want to say like found parameters are grouped, are in grouped style. Are grouped so I want the message to be kind of generic. So I can substitute this word out. So when you can say parameters are grouped or parameters are separate. Parameters are grouped. Separate parameter preferred found them grouped in grouped style, something like this. Separate parameters is preferred, found in grouped style. Oof. Is this good? Separate parameters are preferred, found them in grouped style. Does that make sense? Separate parameters each having separate parameters are preferred over grouped parameters, or something like parameter are organized in the grouped style, but separate style is preferred. Yeah, that's better. Parameters are organized. No. Okay. For this test though, cool. All right, so that's test number 1. Then we'll write test, DocString tests, fixtures, grouped, parameter style dot swift. Okay. So let's refresh. Okay, so this is now that other file. Group are organizing the separate style, but grouped style is preferred. Hmm. Okay, so that's another one. Ah, this one actually has a third case. So FG, let's do an H, right? So when you have only one parameter, this is supposed to be the case. I'm not sure if we want to enforce this. Meaning, if you say you want grouped style, right? And you have one parameter, but you write this. Technically, this is wrong. But is this worth a report? Or simply tolerating this is good enough? By the way, that is supposed to say this. Basically, I'm debating whether this test should be written this way or this way. This way, this way. I mean, like grammatically, this doesn't make sense, but style-wise, I think it's not a violation. All right, judgment call. It's not a violation. Okay. Now, tests, DocString tests, fixture. No, it's whatever parameter style dot swift. Okay, so now in this case, we don't. Either case is fine. So we just make sure this phrase doesn't get thrown. All right. So if I run the test now, this test will pass. This test will fail because we're not outputting anything. Wait, what is this? I mean, this test will fail because we're not printing this. In no way printing that. Hopefully it won't fail for other reasons. And this guy, wait, that's grouped. Oh, this is supposed to say whatever. This is supposed to be separate. Okay. All right, let's run them. Swift test, right? Filter. Test separate parameter style. Just gonna try to compile everything. So if I made a compile error, oh, this is when I learn it. Don't think I did though. Okay, so these are the tests. Oh, compiler error. C, D, E, F, G, H. Whatever. Oh. I see. I don't need to run it there, just run it here. So this will compile, this will fail, beautiful. Let's test the other one. Grouped, this should also compile and fail. Uh-oh. Let's make that a little better. This next one will succeed. No? Whatever parameter style. Oh no. Move. Change that to lowercase, please. Yes. Okay. Hopefully that works. But why does it fail? Oh, because input is empty. That's fine. Input is empty is fine. It's what we want. So now you will succeed. Still failed. What? Okay. Cool. Okay, now let's get this going a little faster. So the next step is add a new problem or two. So I want to add 2 separate problems for this. That's because it's kind of opaque. The error message is kind of opaque, but we have an explainer system, and this is where the explainer system can help a lot because it includes examples. You'll see. So here, each of them will get their own problem number 17, 18. Okay. And we need to update in format to include those as well. So plain text formatter. And this is where we reuse the verbiage we came up earlier. Actually, oh really? Something ain't right. Separate. This test does not work. It's not as strict as I would like it to be. Okay. This is correct. Okay. So this is what we tell users when the error occurs, right? So we say when parameters are not grouped, we want to say parameters are, actually this is in the wrong place. Okay, so that's plain text. Now we also need to update the output for terminals, which could have color. In this case, I think it kind of makes sense to use color. So how do we do this? So this is going to be an interpolate the string, color being green, why not? Okay. Wait, this doesn't make sense. Parameters are not grouped. Not grouped. Wait. That's better. Okay. Cool. Cool. So I I can't remember if this will compile. Let's say it does. The next step would be we can actually go make those tests pass. I guess that's what we want to do. Yeah, so far we've added tests. We've added the added to the configuration so that you can specify this option from command line as well as a TOML file. Well, not really. That part hasn't done yet. But internally, you can say, hey, I want this style or that style. We still have the two tests failing. Perfect. So now, because we have the ability to specify this option, so we can go ahead and implement the linter part. And yeah, which is also pretty easy. Because we kind of already have the information regarding the styles, at least in a very primitive way. So we have the config here, right? No. This is all kind of tricky. Section is defined here. Explainer. All right, this is critic. Okay, so this is the problem. I need this to live here-ish. Parameter style. Oops. Need it to live here. And because the old place depends on this, I need to re-expose it this way. All right, so now everything should work as is. It's not part of configuration. It's part of... Okay, that's good. Cool. Now we're back. All right, so how do we implement this? Because that enum is in this module now, we can just say parameter style is a parameter style. Okay, so now this takes that. This will cause some more compiler errors, and then we'll fix them. Okay. So this is the function that does all the checking for problems. Now it finally has information about the preferred parameter style. So we just gave it to this function, style. Okay. And we also need to update this function's signature such that it says style, parameter style. Everything should keep working. Cool. All right, so in this block, we have the header, right? So we can say at the end, we have the header, but if the style is a separate style, and parameters, DocString parameters. So you have a header now, but you prefer separate style. Yeah, then there's no excuse. Then you have a problem. There's no additional requirement needed. Okay, so we add that problem. The problem is autocomplete, no dice. The problem is parameters are not separated. That's the problem. Okay. Else, if the style is grouped, so now we don't have a grouped header. We want a style to be grouped. We will complain that's the group, but there's a special case here, right? Hey, one of the tests passed. The other one didn't for some reason. Which one is it and why is it not passing? So this one should still pass. Oh god, not the recompilation again. Okay, so that test passed. What's the other one? Separate. I assume this is the one that went from failure to passing. Yes. The other one, though, it failed because nothing has been outputted. That's weird. That's weird. Let's look at the test. So the test goes. Oh, I messed it up. It's supposed to be like this. So you have separate parameters, but you expect it to be them to be grouped. So we what? This is not what I expect. So it's more like this, right? Test grouped parameter style. Grouped parameter style. Grouped. Oh, misspelled this. Whoops. Parameters are organized. I think I misspelled preferred, but I don't think that might not be the problem. So let's copy this string. This is the actual output, and this is what we expect. So tell me what's different. Could not find. Parameters are organized in the separate style. Parameters are organized in the separate style. But grouped style is preferred. But group style is preferred. What? Okay, that means we're not hitting that line, maybe? Validating. Not grouped. Oh. Okay, what's going on? Okay, so did not fatal error. So it's probably somewhere here, no? I mean, I know it's there. Yeah. This error confuses me. Because the reason it fails is could not find parameters are organized in the separate style, but group style is preferred in input. And one of the input is parameters are organized in the separate style, but group style is preferred. What if I delete this? What if I copy this and paste it here? That seems weird. Okay, what if I say parameters are organized in the? Wait. Wait, what? Something's very interesting. So this is the fixture I'm testing, which is right here. Wait, which? I've been editing the wrong file. Ugh. Parameters are organized in the separate style, but group style is preferred. This is for grouped parameters. So this is when you report problems. You should say this, separate style, but grouped style is preferred. Let's compare. So what if I delete this? Aha. So this is the problem. Wait. Did something actually change here? This fails. This succeeds. What? What are the differences? Oh, this is misspelled. Oh. Well, that's a gigantic waste of time. Okay. Fatal error? Cool. So now that all the tests are passing, we can start adding the command line options for this, which will go to here, here, here. And then we'll say, again, this is very similar to this, right? Parameter style. Whether the Okay, so we added the flag. Now we need to parse the flag. Unless we already did that. Oh, there's no way I already did that. Let's look. Wait, what is that? Oh, it's already open here? Let's exit that. Okay. Cool, cool. Parse that into that, which takes this. All right. It takes the raw value, which is a string. Yeah. You convert it into the enum, and then it succeeds. Okay. So is that it? Let's try it. Swift run. DrString check. Separate parameter style. This shouldn't report any error. Oh, please. Yeah, I should do multiple ones because it's gonna take a while. Okay, so we want to check that one. We want to check the fixtures, grouped, parameter styles, test, fixtures, whatever style. Okay, none of these should fail, right? Because we didn't specify any preference. The default value should be whatever. Hello, happy to see someone else streaming Swift. Thanks for watching. Do you stream Swift as well, Nix? Yeah, to be fair, what I'm doing is not like really mainstream Swift, I guess. I do quote unquote mainstream Swift as a full-time job. This is just my side project, and it's not an iOS app or Mac app or anything like that. It's just it's actually a linter for, and it's actually used at work as well now. But it's just my side project. You're just learning? Cool, cool. Swift is a cool language. I'm really happy using it. But I'll ask you what you are working on. Hey, yeah. So what I'm working on is like a linter for. Yeah, I can give you a brief introduction. So it's my side project. So this is the page. So it finds problems in your doc strings. So like you run it like this, and then it will tell you like white space errors or if you're missing some parameters for your doc string, for the string that's attached to your functions or methods, and it will tell you all kinds of things. So that's what I'm working on. Weird place between the beginner and intermediate. Have you programmed in other languages? Style grouped. Okay, so I changed the style to grouped. Now the grouped parameter will start complaining. Runs are organized in a separate style, but group style is preferred. Right? All three of these files have that. Cool. And if I switch to separate, now it says, so for G, 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 and I, in a group style, but separate style is preferred. I kind of want to visually inspect to make sure these things are correct as well. A little bit of C#. Okay, so yeah. Yeah, Swift is a big language. Like I'm not sure where I would be if I haven't programmed for many, many years before Swift came out. It's a little intimidating. The complexity is up there with the C++ and stuff. Okay, grouped parameter style. All right. So in this example, G is in the group style. We asked the linter we told it we prefer the separate style. So when it came to this file, grouped parameter, blah, 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 it told us separate style is preferred for this function. It's grouped. We want separate. Separate is preferred. Perfect. So I can, let's just double check. This one, yep, G is the same deal. Whatever. G here is grouped, yep. And here we clearly used a group style. Cool. So that's working as expected. All right, so it may seem like we've successfully added this feature, but there's actually one more step, if not more. Ironically, I find it much easier to grasp, but don't let me distract you. Continue on. Oh, no problem. Yeah, I actually really appreciate you watching. Yeah, it depends on, everybody has their own background. I feel like if you know C#, I imagine, the first ever language is the hardest. And then everything else is more or less, there are many big overlaps between programming languages. But yeah, I used to think that once you learn a couple of languages, then learning more languages should be super easy. But actually, my opinion evolved a little bit, because as I grew older, I find that, as I learned more language, I find that actually what I knew it's kind of that paradigm where the more you know what you don't know. Like I find like like I came from like web background, and then I learned like Objective-C and C. So there's system programming, there's graphical programming, there's machine learning, there's functional programming, there's all kinds of things, and the language and the library associated with the language, the ecosystem, is vastly different for all kinds of things. And there's a whole world of like category theory and all that. Some languages care more about that kind of stuff, and some care less. But the point is, there's always stuff to learn, and a lot of languages are superficially similar, but what's really important is like the ecosystem and the language that enables it. Like languages that are really good at machine learning is not necessarily good at, for example, system programming. And languages are very pure, very expressive in terms of category theory, may not have a good implementation or tooling, or maybe they're just very hard to use and very unknown, things like that. But yeah, Swift has a good balance though. I feel like I learned a lot via using Swift. Okay. So the thing that's missing right now is this. When I run this command, it's going to spell out all those errors. But in front of the error is this thing. And that's one of the few subcommands that I have right now. But if I run this, I type in E0118, it'll complain, right? It will tell me that it's something unknown when it's not supposed to. So that's the part that's missing. Okay, let's fix that. I'm gonna go to documentation, explainers, open this, documentation explainers, E017, and E018. Okay, so what should we call this? First of all, what is 7? Doc problem. Okay, 17. Parameters are not grouped. Parameters are expected to be grouped. Parameters are expected, well, parameters are preferred to be in the grouped style with the section starting with parameters and followed by each entries for each parameter. The entry should look like parameter name, description, ... Okay, parameters are preferred to be in the grouped, to be organized in the group style, with the section starting with this header and followed by entries for each parameter. The entry should look like blah blah blah. Let's add the correct indentation as well. All right, now we put in our example. Func foo int bar int description parameter foo bar. Okay, so this is the bad example, and the good example is parameters, and then you indent, and then you get rid of these individual keywords because, yep, cool. So that's documentation number 1. We'll use this as the template for documentation number 2, which is number 18 really. So parameters are expected to be separate, right? So parameters are preferred to be ordered in the separate style with section without the section starting with oh wow, this is not this is even more confusing to mention. Each parameter entry for parameter should begin with parameter followed by the parameter name, colon, and the description for. Okay, so now we just swap these two, right? Okay, for the other explanation, this is parameters expected to be grouped. We can add some more. The header is not required if only one parameter is exists. All right, so let's get a good one. Okay. All right, having written those markdown files, now I run a script. The script oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Thank you, Nix, for telling me that. Whoops. How long have I... Oh, man. Okay. Whoops. So, yeah. So, what I've been doing is I've been writing documentations. Mainly these files. This guy. So, it's just a markdown file. And it's like has a title for what I'm describing, and then has some paragraph describing the content, and then some code examples. So these files must be in like a very strict subset of markdown format. That's because I'm using them to generate help messages in app. So I have a script. Well, I don't run it that way. I run it this way. Generate explainers. So that calls that script, which go into that folder, parse out all the existing documentation, and generate a file. Dump the content into a file, which is supposed to have been updated. Explainers. Actually, explainers.swift. Okay, so now we have an entry for number 18. I'm a little concerned that these are under syntax highlighting for some reason. Is this okay? Well, let's find out. So yeah, that gets us pretty close to finishing that part. I think what else do I need? I need to also update the changelog. Again, we're working on this issue. It's also part of 3.0. Okay, so that's one less. So this is the biggest feature that I need to work on before I release the next major release. So the features we added today may get released like tomorrow or on Monday, probably. Really. I need to remember to take this off though. Oh, this is taking forever to compile. I also make this library. For whatever reason, it takes super long to compile it. I need to figure that part out. This is, what is this? This is a compiler crash? Maybe the generated file is fucking us up. Hold on. Let's do some checking real quick. Explainer, yeah, explainers. All right. Okay, so no more explainer changes, right? Let's build it now. Hey, thanks for the follow, Nix. Sorry, I just noticed it. Wow, this is taking forever to compile, and there's no output message for some reason. What's going on? Oh, it built. Why does the other one took so long? And also, that also confirms that the generated file is fucking up something. Man, what's going on? I mean, it's nothing crazy. Why is it taking so long? That's all I'm running, and I have no idea what's going on. Let me look at. No, looks like it's just some stuff building. There's a Swift process running. My fan is going crazy, but there's no output. The Swift, there's only one thread of it running. I'll show you. Oh. Check this out. Oh wait, it's building now. What the heck? So everything is fine. Maybe, huh. Weird. Okay, so generate explainers. Now make build. Everything's fine. Swift run DrString. Let's look at the explainers. Explain number 17. Oh no, it's gonna rebuild again. Okay, that's not too bad. Okay. Number 18. Prefer to be in the separate style. Each entry, blah 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 blah. Okay, cool. Cool. Nice. Okay. I think that's it. That is it for today's stream. Thanks for watching. And this video will go up on YouTube later. Thanks again. Bye bye.